Good evening. Time for an NDTV exclusive. Now, the London Mayoral polls are on 2nd of May, but this time there's reason for Indians to sit up and take notice. Indian origin and entrepreneur and investment banker Tarun Ghulati is contesting the London Mayoral polls. He's originally from Delhi but has lived in London for 20 years now and joins me for a special chat this evening. Mr. Ghulati, thank you so much for speaking to NDTV, and let me start with the obvious question. What made you consider running for the mayoral elections in London this time?
The current incumbent, Mr. Sadiq Khan, has brought London to a standstill. Crime has never been worse. It's the most congested city in the world, the slowest city in the world. And you'll be surprised 21 teenagers lost their lives last year and over 1,000 murders under his watch over the last 8 years. And there's a need for a leveling up agenda. There are 2.2 million people living in poverty. Not enough genuine affordable homes have been built at all. And he's not championed London at all. So he certainly has no moral responsibility to be in that office. And the other contender on the Conservative side is a very poor contender because she is part of the problem. She is a member of the General Legislative Assembly and basically has been a leader of the Conservative Party. So why did she allow such disaster policies to be implemented, which include things like the ultra-low emission zone, the 20-mile-per-hour limits, and the low traffic neighborhoods? She's part of the problem, and both of them are behaving like trainees, looking for an outing. And as for Miss Susan Hall, she doesn't even have a Conservative logo showing there. Is she pretending to be a Conservative or an independent? So I come as a voice of the people. I'm an independent candidate for mayor. I was mugged on my own high street, so that's how bad crime is. And my family has been involved in public service over the last 3 centuries, and I've been doing public service for over 35 odd years. So that's what prompted me to stand up, tall and bold, and I believe I will win this election if everybody comes out to vote.
Right, Mr. Ghulati, you have not aligned with any party in this election. Do you think career politicians have an advantage in this case, or do you think people are welcoming of fresh ideas from an independent candidate?
That's again a great question. Certainly, career politicians have an advantage because a lot of media here. I haven't been called on a husting so far. I actually went around for over a month trying to get 10 signatures with electoral numbers from 32 boroughs in the city of London. They have already had that. So they have the benefit, the media backs them, and basically at the end of the day, I have a chance because I speak for the people. So yes, people want change. The politicians have blurred the vision for London and Londoners. It's time for change. And you'll be surprised. People are looking for that sort of a change. They're sick and tired of these politicians. There is a war going, as you know, in the Middle East. None of these politicians are speaking strongly. I've been the strongest voice for the last 6 months, saying they must stop this carnage and genocide totally. They sit on a fence because people here are tired of these politicians dithering and swaying like the wind, and that doesn't help. So that's what I'm standing for: change, truth, integrity, honesty, and for the people, all for the people.
Right, Mr. Ghulati, I want to quote from an interview where you said you want to run London like a seasoned CEO. What do you mean by that?
Well, certainly, I view London. Firstly, I've been a banker, a chairman. I've sat on several boards. I advise a lot of entities, including dealing with law enforcement. So I'm a strategic advisor to the Global Cyber Alliance. So none of these people who talk of policing understand policing like I do. So as a chairman, I will bring in money. They make excuses to the people. The government is not giving us money. I view London as a global bank where different cultures and entities and communities come here and they thrive. This is one of the greatest financial centers in the world, and that's where I'm coming from. I have the most experience of any one of them. They haven't seen budgets like this. Most of them. None of the independents, none of the political candidates. They're just playing with the sentiments of people. I just saw a report today where the Labour candidate, Mr. Khan, says, I will bring in 1,300 new policemen. And guess what? The Conservative candidate, just one upmanship, I'll bring in 1,500 policemen. Listen, it's not about 1,500 or 1,300. apologize for the lives you have been complicit about, the unfortunate children. There were 21 teenagers who lost their lives last year. So it's not about the numbers. We must do all we can to tackle crime, and I will tackle crime with a fervor they have never seen before. We will bring it down. So that's the problem with the politicians. That is why I'm standing as an independent, not to be tainted with any party, because these party candidates have let us all down. London has come to a standstill. It's on its knees today, and it cannot be done because it's one of the greatest financial capitals in the world. Over 270 communities, diaspora from different nations call it home. Over 300 languages are spoken. I've lived across continents, understand cultural nuances. I have been successful only because of the people interaction that I have, and it's people who will vote for me and vote for change.
Right, safe streets, curbing crime rate is important for you. You've lived in Delhi in the past, right? Now, somewhere do you think your experience in Delhi, which also faces similar challenges really in terms of safety on the streets, now is that something that has stayed with you and that's what compels you to look at safety as a priority?
Most certainly. Most certainly. Safety for all genders, including women, is critical. So I'm going to reopen. I've taken a leaf out of Delhi's books, certainly, and India, where I grew up for the first 35 years, which has taught me to take all religions and all cultures and all genders behind. So we're a multicultural country and the biggest democracy in the world. So that brings me to the table in London, where we've opened police stations, open booths, which I saw a lot in Delhi. We'll protect all genders, and we'll measure policemen and have them accountable on a league table. And I look at compensation so they're paid well, but also transportation needs to be invested into. So I'm going to abolish what I call a disaster policy totally, called ULEZ. I'm going to remove a 20 mile per hour limit. I'm also going to remove low traffic neighborhoods, and I'll remove congestion charge in London over the weekends and holidays. So I'm going to look at also disabled people, more access to transportation. Right. I'm going to, allow people over 60, give them freedom pass and the priority pass in peak hours. And more importantly, I'm going to make sure everybody who's lagging behind, because, when you and I sit on a plane, on a seat of a plane, many factors come in before that aircraft takes off. I want London to be soaring with everybody sitting in it flying high, and that's not happening today.
Right. Now, what should be done to make London the most livable city in Europe, Mr. Ghulati?
Well, I'll firstly bring in advisors from different communities, and because I don't pretend to be the expert at everything. So I already have a shadow cabinet in place. City planning needs to be looked at, transportation, security, communities are feeling insular and broken. So I'm going to bring in advisors from different communities so that they have all the answers, because I've been going around the boroughs and I get to see new problems, different areas, different communities. I bring in those advisors, which I've already formed a list of, and they will again come in. Then I'm going to tackle crime with a fervor never seen before, which I mentioned before. I'm going to totally abolish the 20 mile per hour limit and the ULEZ. So basically 156 hours are wasted by an average driver driving around in congestion. You see what I mean? That is impacting mental health. And we are living in a democracy where people are paying their taxes into a common purse, and where the politicians that are elected should be utilizing that money effectively, efficiently for the people. That's not being done because social service is down, health service is down, security is down, movement is bad. So you got to make sure I bring back the mojo back for London and the smiles back on the faces of everyone. So I'm going to tackle, like a good seasoned CEO, I have a dashboard. I'm going to look at it on a holistic basis, but certainly there are some priorities that I'll tackle first.
Right now, you've lived in India and you've lived in London for 20 years. Do you think that the multicultural experience you bring to the table, will it be an advantage for you?
No, it's a great advantage. None of the other candidates have that advantage. They make gaffes. They don't understand cultural nuances. I've lived across continents. I've lived in India where people thrive in harmony and live together. I've lived all over the world. That gives me a strength. It gives me knowledge. it gives me a know-how, and it gives me the people-to-people interaction, because that moment of truth is lost when you can't interact with people. The current politicians in the fray lack that. And that's what is a great advantage, because as I said, there are over 270 nations whose diaspora live here. I can understand, empathize, because I speak many languages. I interact with them. None of the other candidates also have the experience and the gravitas to handle a budget like this, because I'm not only going to be guided by the 21 billion sterling budget, but I'm going to create funds. I'm going to issue a bond, impact sustainability fund that looks at housing, people well-being, social care, so that everybody comes along. That's the difference. None of them have the wherewithal. As you will know, I've been CEO of UTI International, one of the largest asset management companies globally, apart from being a chairman of a bank and other things. So that experience and the cultural experience that I've gained, which is very, very rich all over the world, gives me an advantage. And of course, the love and affection of 1.4 billion Indians, the power that is behind me, and the people all over the world who are coming forward, different communities, that gives me strength.
Right now, Mr. Ghulati, is London home or Delhi? I know it's a trick question, but what would you say?
Well, certainly, Anna, I call this home, but I grew up in India, so my heart lies there always. And my parent, I lost my dear mother last week, but my father still lives there. So that's home for me in that sense. My heart is there. I'm a person of Indian origin. I take a lot of pride in that all over the world. But I'm a man of the world, having lived all over the world. So I'm a proud Londoner, batting for London, and I'll be the next mayor of London for the Londoners.
Right, Mr. Ghulati, thank you so much for speaking to NDTV.